Hello, dear students. Welcome back to my class. I'm Dr. Indraini Katti. In this today's video, I'm going to speak on the Indian Contract Act 1872. So in this, a little bit of let us learn about what is contract and the meaning of contract, what are there in this. Okay, let me start it. Right. So this is very important part of the business law for BCom students as well as MBA, MCom and all. Okay, let's come to the definition of contract. So according to Salomon, an agreement creating and defining obligation between two parties is known as contract. Okay, so here to make a contract, what is very important is an agreement which creates and defines the obligations of both the parties. There are two parties to make one agreement, and both the parties' obligations are defined in an agreement. Okay, then we call it as a contract according to Salomon. There's one more definition as per Pollock: every agreement and promise enforceable by law. And very interestingly, in Contract Act itself, it is defined in section 2, clause H of Indian Contract Act. Simple definition it is. In a single line, it is defined, What is this as? An agreement enforceable by law. It means to make a contract, what is important is an agreement is very important. That too, this agreement should be enforceable by law. It means there should be legality. Okay. So that's why to understand it better, one formula I have made. What is this? Contract is equal to, okay, contract is equal to agreement plus enforceability. Okay. Enforceability is that where everything is legal. That is, agreement is legal. So legality or enforceability means what? This gives a right as well as obligation. Right to one person and obligation on the other person. And if in case a party doesn't perform his duty at that time, the other party has a right to go to court of law to get the justice. Okay, that's why we call it as legality or enforceability, right? So let's move on to the two parts are there in the contract. One is agreement, one more is enforceability. So let us learn what do you mean by agreement. Okay, this is the first part. Agreement means what? According to section 2, clause E. See, contract is also defined in section 2 only, but clause H, here it is E. Every promise or set of promises forming consideration for each other is known as agreement. Here also two aspects are there. Agreement is equal to promise plus consideration. Okay. So what it forms is, again one more time, every promise or set of promises forming consideration for each other. There are two parties. For each party, the consideration is there. Something in written. Consideration is nothing but something they are going to get back. Okay. Example, A promises to deliver his radio to B, and in return, B promises to pay a sum of rupees 500 to A. There is said to be an agreement between A and B, and the consideration is A receives rupees 500, B receives that radio set, small radio transistor set. Okay. So here something in return both the parties will get, that itself is called as consideration, right? So what is contract? Contract is agreement plus enforceability. What is agreement? Agreement is equal to promise plus consideration. So let's move on to the next part, that is what is promise. Okay. So promise means here, it is also defined in Contract Act only according to section 2, clause B. Keep in your mind all the sections. If you quote these sections, you will score more marks. According to section 2, clause B, promise is defined. Okay. When a person made a proposal to another, to whom proposal is made, if the proposal is assented thereto, a proposal is said to be accepted. Okay, so here what happens is when a person makes a proposal to another, to whom the proposal is made, if proposal is assented thereto, a proposal is said to be accepted. A proposal, when accepted, becomes promise. So when it becomes promises, promise is equal to remember this meaning, the simple formula I have given to you, promise is equal to offer plus acceptance. One person has to give the offer. He has to offer, right? He has to make the proposal. Proposal is nothing but offer only, right? So offer, when it is accepted, the same thing becomes a promise. A promise followed by the consideration, that becomes the agreement. Agreement, an agreement, when it is enforceable by law, that becomes a contract. Okay, I'm going back. So let's move on to the next. That is, what do you mean by offer? According to section 2, clause A, when one person signifies to another his willingness to do or to abstain from doing anything with a view to obtaining the assent of that other to such an act or abstinence, he is said to make a proposal. In simple, what is offer is when one person signifies to another person his willingness to do or abstain from doing something. So this itself is known as offer, right? So here I conclude. I have given you a little bit of meaning as well as definition of different concepts, legal terms which are used most commonly in Contract Act. That is, contract is equal to agreement plus enforceability. Agreement is equal to promise plus consideration. Promise should have to be followed by consideration, or you can say that every promise or set of promises forming consideration for each other, both the parties, is known as agreement. And what is promise? Promise is equal to offer plus acceptance. What is offer then? Offer should have to be, offer is an expression of his willingness to do or not to do, abstain from doing something, anything, whatever it is, right? So that is called as offer. Here I conclude the discussion of these words. In my next video, I'll come with a statement that all contracts are called as agreements, but all agreements will not become contracts, right? So that's why we say that all contracts are agreements, but all agreements are not contracts. So for that, how and what explanation you will have to write, what are the points that you need to cover in that statement to discuss about it or explain. You will get a question for 15 marks also. All contracts are agreements, but all agreements are not contracts. So let's deal with that in my next video. Thank you.